All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Welcome to AthensGATV Meetup for Content Creators. We've got a really cool panel tonight, and I'm going to let Sam from Flagpole magazine moderate tonight, and so she's going to introduce everybody, and we'll be able to talk to everybody. But if you don't know, our website is AthensGATV.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there, and what that does is every month when we've got the next one planned, I send out, letting everybody know what's going on.
I guess I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Sam Lipkin. I'm the editorial coordinator and music editor at Flagpole magazine. I'm also the creator of Volumes Hip Hop, which started as a zine highlighting the hip hop scene, turned into an online blog, went into event production, produced a lot of events over the year, and generally help independent artists market themselves, learn how to reach out to press, do all of those things. So I do run Volumes Hip Hop, but my main gig is Flagpole magazine. So happy to be here. Thank you, Mugs. I guess I will just let you know who we have here today, and then we can go down the line and you can tell everyone about yourselves. So we have Fajr, we have Jennine, Alissa, and Akeeme down at the end. So today a lot of our topics are going to be around being a woman or a member of the LGBTQ+ community as a content creator. So I will let everyone tell a little bit about themselves, and at the end, if anybody has questions directly from them, we'll just take a pause for questions for each person, and we'll just go down the line.
Thank you so much. Well, hello everybody. Thank you guys all for joining. My name is Fajr DeLane. I am an Athenian. I went to Clark Central High School, graduated in 2016. I'm currently the CEO and founder of Fun Fit Fabulous, which is a health and wellness program for girls. And I'm partnered with the Boys and Girls Club. So I started with that this year, graduated from Howard with my undergrad, and just did my master's at Georgia State in public health. So that's a little bit about me.
Hey, greetings everyone. My name is Jennine DeLane. I am, we've been in the Athens community since about 2013, but I am a California native. So my thing is a Cali girl in a Georgia world. And so, but I work with the University of Georgia for the last 10 years on one of their health and nutrition programs, but I also do a lot of community-based work, thus about me being here today, and I do work around Black community culture and rediscovering hidden identities here in America. I will talk more a little bit about what I do with that, particularly centered around a lot of genealogy work, helping families family by family rediscover their roots through using a lot of the archived evidence and information that we have available now that our grandparents didn't have access to. So that's what I do, and I'll be sharing more about that and how I do that through social media.
Hi everyone, my name is Alissa Tillman. I'm a health and life coach. So if you don't know what that is, basically I'm a cheerleader for your heart's desires, but I also hold you accountable and help stretch you in moments where you feel like, ugh, which we've all felt like a little before. Exactly. I'm also a Cali girl in a Georgia world. I've never heard that, which I love that so much. I have a nonprofit organization called HugYoself.LoveYoself, where we help middle school girls get out of self-doubt and into self-love through creative programming, health and life coaching, and wellness retreats.
What's going on, y'all? This is Akeeme Martin, better known as DJ Black Starr, affectionately to some. I am the owner of Onyx Echelon 85 Enterprises, or O85 for short. You ain't got to say the whole thing. It's a nonprofit organization focusing on curating unique events and collaborating with other entities and projects, as well as artist management and guidance. It started, actually, I was with WOG for like 10 years. Shouts out to Laura, that's in the crowd, that's the program director currently. During that time, I was hosting the halftime hip hop show, and during that time, I started up a series called Feminine Energy. Originally it was just a one-off, but Feminine Energy was to feature female artists of all genres. And originally it was a one-time thing, but folks was like, yo, what is the next one? I was like, I wasn't wasn't planning on doing the next one, but it evolved into a 15-year journey. We recently just celebrated its 15th year of existence, and also started a festival of its own called Festival of Sisterhood, and a community that we call the Queen, which is basically a safe, supportive, and loving space of women and non-binaries of all avenues, whether it's in music, art, comedy, poetry, business, education, you name it. And it's been that for the longest time. So it's more so, probably the reason why I'm on this panel, because I am the only guy, is about being supportive of women and non-binaries of all avenues, because being in the industry for now like 20 years, it is very toxic coming from the male perspective, but my goal through the events that I do and collaborating has been to just give a safe and supportive and loving space for all, basically. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the introductions. The reason why we're here is to talk about these topics, and the current political climate has definitely struck a lot of fears, renewed fears, deepened fears, however you want to look at it. There's a lot of suppression happening online through the various social media websites. And platforms, there's migrations happening from platforms, so the social media is just really difficult to navigate right now. In my opinion, a lot of the struggles due to, I'll say specifically being a woman that I currently have, are things that I have always experienced. So in my opinion, this is something that's always been happening, right? So it's not that we're talking about it currently because all of a sudden it's new. But there are a lot of fears and a lot of new issues with the algorithm, with the platforms to navigate. So if everyone would like to maybe just discuss how it is that you use, how it is you use your platforms to do the work that you do. And if you want to just discuss your personal challenges that you've had to navigate due to your identity, and whatever, I think that that's an identity can be really open to whatever that means to you in this conversation.
You want to just go like down the line?
Yeah, if you want to talk, and then we can see if anyone has questions, and we can kind of go down the line.
Okay. All right, so I have my own personal Instagram, Fajr. I do a lot of work in the community. There I kind of post like maybe what I'm doing. I do a lot of leadership. I actually do different panels and speak different places. So I kind of use it really to motivate and like keep people up to date of like what I got going on. Now, when it comes to my business, Fun Fit Fabulous, I have created its own platform, and I showcase the girls that I work with. We do different programming like nutritional wellness. We also do vision boards. So I really like try to take you guys a look into the work we're doing. But it's interesting because it's really just me. So it's like I'm doing the programming, but it's like I'm trying to get content so that you guys know what's going on. And sometimes I fall short because I have programming, and some of my girls be like, "You didn't post this week." And I'm like, "Okay, don't worry, I'm editing. Like, I'm gonna get it soon." So I kind of try to use it as an empowerment. Like there is so much suppression going on everywhere, but I try to at least have a positive mindset in a lot of things that I do, and I want to let people know the good work being done, because it can get very unmotivating and like depressing to think about like all the bad things that are always going on. But I try to say like, hey, these are good people doing good things, and I'm part of that positive change. So even when I don't feel like posting and I get self-doubt, I'm like, let me just, send it out there. And I think what also had helped me mentally, like, I think I used to have a very big phobia of like the likes, right? And when that like feature went off, where you can turn it off, I'm like, yes, I'll post whatever. Like now I feel more confident, where sometimes I'll look at the likes, I'm like, oh, I'll take it down or archive it. But now I'm like, it doesn't matter. If I like the content, I know it's good, let's just go up there. They just don't, you gotta see how much people liked it, you know? So I get a little bit more motivated of building my brand. But yeah, I do want my personal pages to reflect what I'm doing, know that I'm here to make noise. My name is Fajr, which means a breaking down queen. So shout out to my mom for naming me that, but I really feel like that's who I am, and I want to show the world what I do and that there is good work being done. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you guys have
questions for Fajr?
See, the last time we waited till the end to do the question.
Oh,
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll do
sure.
it. Well, me, I have a little bit of a different journey with social media, in that I probably was just doing the work first, and then realized, okay, let me get into social media and kind of start sharing it a little bit more through that platform. So, you know, my kids would say, oh, you know, all the old, like Facebook, you know, the snail stuff and all that or whatever. And so I went from, probably started off just in my general social life with Facebook, right? It's not doing any business promotions or anything like that. But then I ended up getting hacked about a year ago or whatever, so I haven't got back on there. But anyway, I did go with Facebook and Instagram, and then as I began to, like I said, already do the work in the community, of course, a way that you can communicate is through the social media. And I really, when I decided that I did want to hit the internet world with the services that I do in and around what I call Indigenous community solutions, and like I said, the genealogy, curriculum support, and a lot of things are umbrella under that. I went to TikTok. Now that's a whole nother world. And so, you know, and it's a lot of energy on there, and it's a good and bad. I mean, every social media, you know, is a good and bad or whatever. And I mean, the energy on TikTok, of course, just moves, you know, miles a minute, and it's good on one level, but it's also dangerous on a lot of levels, because you have a lot of misinformation on there and whatever. And then you can see the younger generation, they don't fact check stuff, you know, so it's just like, as soon as somebody just says one thing on their platform, now everyone's repeating it, and, you know, no receipts, no proof, you know, so it's a lot of, it's good and it's bad. But what it did afford me an opportunity to do is continue to meet a lot of people from across the country, and I can also say the world. Some other stories I can share with New Zealand actually contacting me on some stuff that they got from my TikTok. And so you're like, oh my gosh, okay. So anyway, but that allowed me to meet other people, to take one focus, and that focus is about genealogy, because there's so much stuff we could talk about on history. So I'm not there to debate history. I'm not there to, you know, there's so many other platforms that are putting out the information on all of that. So my concentration was just so that if you want the genealogy part, you know, to kind of come back. So I'm in and I'm out, you know, with it on a certain type of way. And so it's been really good. I've been able to help. I think I've been on TikTok particularly maybe about a year and a half or so, maybe just a little bit under that. And of course, I have all the young people around me, so they help me. Okay, you got to be consistent with your post at this time. So, you know, I have that internal family support. I think actually Alissa has a aunt or cousin that's on TikTok, Zuri, who actually I was able to call, because she helps people, you know, through her online business of how to get their numbers up on TikTok. So she gave me some cues, and I followed it, and that helped build my audience, got me an ebook, you know, and everything in place, and so that I can, you know, help people get to these journeys. And so I would say over the last year and a half, you know, I've helped. So I built online classes to help people and just create a space to talk about genealogy, you know, for Black people, because that's just something we hadn't really gotten into, and just try to just let them know the beginning steps where you should search. And so I do, you know, these monthly classes around that. And then in addition to that, I have an ebook, and then I actually do the services for people as well. So I've been able to meet so many different people. And, you know, what's unique about the people that I serve is that I guess in every family, there's someone that's trying to keep the family information together. So it's all those, you know, the black sheep people. So I'm like, I have a collective of black sheep, you know, the ones who were always, you know, other people don't care. Not everybody cares about the family history, but somebody's always given the task to kind of keep the photos, to kind of keep the books. And so a lot of the people around me are those people. I was that person, and so we have a unique experience around that and just putting together these stories. And so I would say, you know, we've reached probably now close to 300 families through actual services or taking my classes and getting on their way in that journey. So yeah, social media, again, is a time where, for me personally, even despite everything that's going on, I definitely don't feel afraid or unempowered. I feel very empowered to continue to show up in my space. Some of the challenges that I do get, and people that are in my space get, is other people trying to tell us our history. And so, but I don't spend my time arguing about it, but it's very interesting for you to be in a space, maybe sharing your information on your page or whatever it is, and then you have, people coming even from within your community and outside of your cultural community, even outside of your own country, trying to tell you what your grandmother told you was wrong. You know what I mean? So that's a very interesting thing that I try to tell a lot of creators, that you just can't let the tempo just get out of control, because then we lose focus, we're in too much emotion, right? So that's a very interesting space, because it's one of those things you want to defend, but it's about institutionalizing our information, not just letting it be a post for the night and it's gone tomorrow, but how we can bring these things into the academia world, into books, so that it'll long live past the Instagram comments and tweets, in the book. So that's what it's all about. So that's where I'm trying to challenge myself to make sure that I really put the energy towards institutionalizing the information, because we can't solve all this in a TikTok, 40-minute talk or whatever the case is, but let's get it in the books. Let's get the primary resources documented and leave the legacy behind us. Oh, is that working? Okay. Yeah.
I use my platform really to share positive energy. When I first got on Instagram, y'all, I had an identity crisis. I was thinking that I needed to be the it girl, that I needed to post the just cute pictures and get the likes and all of those things. Similar to Jennine, my account got hacked literally like 2 weeks ago. So my ego was definitely crushed, because I was like, oh my gosh, so what does that mean for me? Like, who am I now, right? But like Fajr, I have a business page, Hug Yourself and Love Yourself. So it led me to really dive into, who are you, Alissa? Like, what do you represent? Are you just the cute, pretty girl and that's it? Or do you actually have a message? So right now, I am in a complete rebranding. I'm rebranding myself, I'm rebranding my business. We just got a new logo, launched a new website. We have a workshop series coming up at the library. So if any of you have any middle school girls or know any middle school girls that are like, hey, we want to get into this confidence building, this positive self-talk, this sisterhood, come and see us at the library starting on May 5th. And right now, that is really just what it's about, is me just sharing as much positive energy as I possibly can, not only for other people, but for myself, because it keeps me grounded. We all know life is hard. It's easy to complain. We're not going to pretend like it's perfect. But, I mean, with a little perspective change, I definitely think that it can help us just get through it. So my message today, tomorrow, and God willing forever is hug yourself and love yourself. And that's what I use Instagram for.
So I was one of the OGs when Facebook was just originally just for connect with college folks. And then there was like a Facebook for college, and then there was a Facebook for high school. So it was like two different things. And then, so knowing how social media kind of just evolved over the years, it's one thing that's important to know about social media in general. It's only meant to be a snapshot of your life, especially with Instagram. Instagram originally was just for photos. It wasn't about videos, it wasn't about reels or anything like that. It's just meant to be a snapshot of your life. So my whole thing with social media in general originally was just to post like inspirational messages for people, where people, life be lifing, we know it, we all do, but sometimes that you just hear that message that's necessary. Yo, I needed that, today. For personally, that was for me. And for OE85's Instagram, it's just posting up, the shows that we may have coming up, the collaborations that we may have going on, and even for my personal too. And I'm of the belief that it's always about quality over quantity. I never allow myself to be like, oh my God, I need to, make this post or post every single day just to get likes or to get viral or anything like that. It's like, dude, if people come to my stuff and like what they see, that's cool. As long as I got one, that's fine. Because that's always been my mentality with shows. And even Sam can attribute it too, because we've collaborated on shows and we've done shows separately where it's like, you may have a huge crowd of people on one time, and then you may have like only a handful of people. But sometimes all you need is just that one person that's telling you, hey, I really enjoy what you do. That's more than enough for you to keep going, make you know that this journey is all the way worth it, right? So, and I guess the struggle is, like you were saying, that identity crisis. It's like if things go left, what are you left with? But I think it's important to maintain authenticity both on social media and off social media, because a lot of times we feel like there's a persona that we have to maintain, and we have to live up to that persona, out in the streets and this, that, and the third. It's like, no, it's the authenticity is going to shine through more than a perfectionist, because you're going to spend more energy trying to be perfect, and that can be draining more than anything else. And I think that's probably the most struggle that I see, even with the ones like the artists that I collaborate with. They always try to maintain like this certain image. It's like, dude, it's about your authenticity, and you got to showcase the struggles as well as your successes too. And I think that's the most important thing in this day and time. And we do have a very powerful platform, and it's all a matter of how you use it. You use it to showcase your journey, showcase your story, and it's not about the likes, it's not about the comments. Because you're just, again, it's just a snapshot, because nobody's going to live your life in its entirety but you, right? And I think the only struggle that I've personally felt was someone randomly made a comment many moons ago. It's just like, so why are you as a guy or as a man, doing all these women-centric events? And I'm like, why not? Like, why can't I? Obviously there are women-owned businesses, there are women-centric events, but it's like, why not a man who was very supportive of that to utilize their influence and the power to provide a safe space for women and non-binaries too, right? So I wouldn't even call it a struggle. It was kind of more like a side-eye thing. I'm like, really? It's like, you're just giving it a look like, really? But at the same time, it's like there's other guys. I have one friend of mine who's been doing his thing called, it's called Queenship. If I went viral with this, then I need to follow that blueprint and make it happen. And even in the music room, and Sam knows that from doing hip hop shows, like a sound will go viral, and then next thing you know, you're gonna have like 15 other MCs trying to come to do that same sound so they can trying to go viral too. And it's like, you can't do that, So, and it just goes back to authenticity, basically, so.
Yeah, and I just want to revisit the question, Lux. I think we have a lot of people that it applies to here. It's just how their brand and content creation has led to mentorship, like situations of that. Does anyone else want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, honestly, it's like looking at a mirror for me. The girls that I'm teaching, I could really say that I'm in your shoes. I was in your shoes like just a couple years ago. And, especially like me going to Clark Central, working with Athens girls and saying like, hey, and one of my club location sites at a time in my family, we were in the projects for a while. So I used to live around Springs, and it was a hard time for me mentally because I never saw myself living there, but it allowed me to develop as an individual that if I'm talking to the president or regular person, I actually have that connection, and I can say I actually know what you're going through and you can make it out and you can do something great. So I started to see all the things that God had me go through, the ups and downs, was really for me to connect with everybody, my journey, I just kind of wanted to help inspire those that were around me. So I worked really hard. My path was a little different. I wanted a scholarship to school. Some people don't like school and stuff like that, but I wanted to experience college, and my situation, I just couldn't really afford that. So it was like, okay, I was going after scholarships, so I was very involved. I was president of different organizations in JRTC. So I was really like being in the community, you know? So I tell these girls what your vision is, you can do it, but you gotta lay out a plan and you gotta see how to get there. And I needed the community support. So I'm always telling the girls, like, we have a beautiful community in Athens. Like, we could say this is going on or whatever, but there's people who actually care. And I was in California before. California is just so big, and I don't even know what kind of community is there. Everybody's like, we're just, you know, for ourselves, you know, very like, whatever. But here, we actually, you know, it's the South and stuff, and people want to, especially from there, they're like, oh my God, the South is so scary. They have all this type of like misinformation. Man, I love it here. I mean, you know, I really do. And I really feel like people ride for you. My counselors, my people in Athens literally helped me get to where I need to go. And they're so proud of me now, but I literally be saying it was because of your help. You know, sometimes to tell people like, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for putting that connect for me. So for me to be doing this to the girls is no brainer. It's like me getting to where I needed to go was the success of the community I was from. You know, so like now I just want to like pass that information to these girls, and but you need to lock in, you know, be focused on your goals, and here's some of the tools that I've learned and I'm passing it on to you. Now you go be great. So
Yeah, thank you. Alissa, did you want to?
Yeah, no, I would love to. When it comes to the girls, and I see men even in the audience, so I want to speak to the men as well, is it's self-love. Whether you're in real life, whether you're on social media, that's literally what it comes down to, is loving yourself. When we get on social media, we see all these wonderful people, and then we forget how wonderful we are. And then the comparison game comes in, the likes, the who do I need to be today so that society accepts me, and that whole game. So when I'm speaking with the girls and social media comes up, the first thing that comes to mind is there's no room for mean girls. If I'm being honest, I was a mean girl when I was young. Why? Going back to the people who talk shit ain't doing shit. Low confidence. I didn't know myself. I didn't like myself. I was comparing myself. There was support at home, but it was a different type of support. We had tough love. So with all of that being said, I took that to school, and I was mean to kids. I was a little bitch. I was a little asshole. But over time, when I had to face myself in the mirror, that's when Hug Yourself and Love Yourself came. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. The fact that I can forgive myself and somehow embrace me, even through all of this sassiness, I have to share this with the girls, because it literally comes down to, can you love yourself? And when we go on social media, no matter if we're talking to a 6-year-old or we're talking to our 55-year-old self, why are you comparing yourself to others? And I think that's a good question. Even I ask the girls of like, what is it that you're seeing in this girl that you feel you don't have? And if it's the beauty, if it's the money, if it's the relationship, it's the, again, like Akeeme said, it's a highlight. So all these beautiful people that we see out here who are just living their best lives, they got all this money, they got all these followers, all this, guess what? They also shit too. And they have to wipe their ass. Yeah. And they also eat, and they also probably were naked when they were born. So the point that I'm trying to make is we are all the same, and we all have beautiful gifts. And another thing that I literally just love so much that's been coming to me is you are not meant to blend in. Stop trying to blend in. Stop trying to be like everybody else. You're meant to stand out. Like, yes, they're wonderful, but so are you. So are you.
Yeah, thank you. I just have to say I love that they were probably naked when they were.
They were wearing an umbilical cord. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Right.
I don't think anyone came out with the Gucci. Maybe. I don't know.
Gucci shades and just crying.
Came out with a Birkin.
For real, I have arrived. My student, I'm here.
Right.
Acknowledge me.
Jennine, was there something that you?
Well, no, I was just gonna possibly just add in, then the other flip side of it is, one thing I used to tell my own children at first, you know, watching the social media thing grow, you know, from when it was MySpace, Facebook, to Instagram. And then, of course, and as a parent, we're sitting here like, oh my gosh, these kids are just getting too consumed in this stuff. You're trying to keep them from as much as possible, and when do we give them a phone? And, you know, and because I have so many children, I watched where the older children weren't consuming their phones because they didn't have any phones. Well, we kind of did because we were overseas at a point, but even that wasn't as bad. But anyway, just watching the social, because that was just a call or whatever, and they weren't really using it for that. But once the social media stuff got on, and as a parent, you're watching all this stuff and the consumption of it. But then, you know, and again, we talked about the good and bad of it all, and, you know, being authentic, you know, whenever you're working with youth, you know, definitely, you know, trying to help them to be confident to know who they are and be who they are, but also understand that everyone's seeing this. You know, because you have your teachers, your jobs, so everything you do, there's nothing private here. So kids forget, and then they want to be in middle school, and they want to send the naked pictures, and all this stuff gets all back through the schools, and and so we watched this over the years, like oh my, thank God it wasn't my kids, but you're hearing about it, like and having to always remind these kids that look. This is the real world, and it's too much exposure really for them. But outside of all of that, if they can balance all of their identity and whatever, what are you using it for? My thing with children, even with my own kids starting first, I'm like, okay, you have all these followers. So what you doing with it? Can you make some money with it? That's my thing. Okay, so because I'm like, look, when it comes to social media, you have somebody that's leading, the great people with the great content, inspiring, and then you have the herd, So I always would challenge them, well, what are you? Are you the herd or are you leading something? So, like, why don't you lead? Can you come up with a product? Can you come up with a t-shirt? Can you come up with something? Okay, you have all those followers. Can you make money off of it? I'm like, you guys have access to make money in a way we never had access. We have to sit here and be at a certain place, the whole 8 hours. You could come up with something and then, have it going and making money without you even having to put your time in it once you create it, so there's new opportunities, now also with social media that I think can also help inspire kids to keep and stay focused on social media, and come up with their creativity and their branding and expose that to them early on as well, so they can see different ways to make money off of what they do. So it was funny, and even though we always talked about this over the years and they've been doing all of their own things, it was really funny when then they saw me doing it, right? So it went from, okay, oh God, mom's on TikTok, oh God, her lights on, oh God, she's on there right now, and it was this funny little thing going on, like, oh God, what is she doing up at this time? They're just watching everything and whatever. Because see, my thing about my TikTok, like I said, I'm in and out, but my strategy was getting with other influencers. See, I don't want to be the influencer on TikTok. I partner in with people who sit here all day and waste time. And I just pop in, hey, get my ebook, pop it off for a little while, and then I'm back out. You know what I mean? I can't be the one all day, getting that audience, but I know how to make friends. And so I get friends who capture those audiences, build genuine relationships, do things for them from the genuineness of my heart, and let that be real, and then they'll shout you out to their people, and then that's how I do it, right? So then, the kids saw me get my little store, my stand store, my ebooks going in, and then, because then you can see the model. Now, see, when we're at home and we're cooking dinner and you're hearing the Cash App clap, see, that's a little fun thing, see that cat, hear that ding, 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 just in making this little dinner, look, I've dinged out like 4 days of work right now, you know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean? So, and just keeping that is to them to be inspired, like, okay, because whatever we're doing, there's so many opportunities to like make the books about it, make, share the mentoring, share your stories to further do what you're doing. So I think that the more we can also get young people to see the reality of they can just be making candles, they can just be doing a simple t-shirt, whatever the trends are, how can you do something positive and make money? I think we can really get young people, to see the responsibility of social media and see it on a whole nother level versus just, being goofy and doing stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of great opportunity, definitely around entrepreneurship and young people with social media, if we can give them enough exposure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that. Those are great ideas. Yeah, I think that, most of us are not in a position to be on social media all day, so I really like that strategy. That was great. We are nearing the end of our time. Do you have a question?
Yeah, y'all are on the big platforms, and you rely on them to get your message out, but in many cases, they're owned by people who are openly hostile to you and your communities. And I'm wondering if you stay on there despite that because that's where your people are, or if maybe you would like to be somewhere else but the barriers are too high, or if you've thought about what it would take for those owners to push you off.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Does anyone have?
I've gotten kicked out. I've definitely experienced those exact type of situations where you can be on a platform and just mention one thing, and all of a sudden they'll just kick you out, you know. But other channels, but then it's weird where other channels will talk about that topic all day, you know, for 8 hours or whatever. And then it's like, how come when we just brought it up in one comment or whatever, we're getting just booted out? So it's a lot of interesting things happening, but then at the same time, yes, do we stay on? You know, and we do stay on because you still, you know, you just go do another account because you still have an opportunity to engage. But now what's happening is that a lot of people have to recensor their language. You know, we can't say the words, you got to switch it all around and learn the codes to try to stay in the algorithm. But then the smart thing is that we also have to then say, you know, because people are jumping, well, let's try this platform. Let's try that platform. But I think it's all about, like you said, authenticity, genuinely connecting with the people that you're serving in your audiences, and then maybe taking them into your own platforms, taking them back into your own website, to your own Zooms, you know, so it's that. So one thing when we thought TikTok was closing, that was a good eye-opener of like, oh shoot, we could just be cut all the way off, right? And so then what will you do with those 5,000 people, you know, that follow you religiously for whatever they want to learn from you? Have you been smart and utilized your time to navigate them off of TikTok or off of your Instagram into your own website, into your own subscription, so you can still keep a genuine connection? So I think that with all the challenges that are going on, we have to constantly reevaluate that. So you're kind of 1 foot in, but you also know you need to be 1 foot out, because you can't have all the conversations anymore because of the censorship, you know. And it fluctuates, you know. For me personally, I don't even do lives. I mean, really on my TikTok, I've only gone live like literally one time. I sometimes join in a few other panels, and you know, but it's like, you know, we have to be very careful, because all of a sudden, if we just bring up one thing, we may get booted all the way out, you know. So it's really interesting about what we call the TikTok police, or, you know, and that we really are trying to be censored in a certain type of way. But that also inspires a lot of people that I know, because if you're working so hard to shut my conversation down, that makes me feel like, okay, well then maybe this is a conversation that should be had, right? So I guess it's kind of like taking the negative energy into more positive fuel to keep going, but then being smart to say, okay, and let me move you into another space so we can really have the conversation. So use them and then be smart and see how you can use it to your advantage, you know, to move people into other spaces. So, and I wouldn't really say another social media space as opposed to environment like your own Zooms or, you know, your own website where you can keep up communication like that. But, you know, I don't want to keep jumping all over to being into this, into all the different social medias. Too much for me personally. You know, once some of the major platforms get a little diluted, it's kind of like, okay, let's just get off. You know, start moving, you know, a little bit off for me personally. Other folks like to tell everybody, hey, join me over here, join me over there. You know, I don't really have a lot of energy personally for that, but other people, it still works for them, you know, because again, the issue, like in the work that I'm doing is I'm only tapped into like a pinch of the market, right? There's so many more people still that this conversation needs to get to. So for that sake, I keep a foot in on it, but you have to definitely balance it all out.
Yeah, and I would say that even on the free social media platforms, there's to some extent that you can use your money or not use your money to speak. On Facebook specifically, a lot of times now if you create Facebook events, if you're a show promoter, organize a lot of events, markets, I used to get a lot of traffic and a lot of people knew about my events from creating Facebook events. And they have really suppressed where no one's really seeing those unless you put money into their advertising to push those events. So I still create those events because there's still people on Facebook that the odds are the only way they're going to find out about my show is if I create the Facebook event, but I will not give Facebook money anymore. I do not buy any ads on Instagram or Facebook, and I've gone back to the old way of things, taking that money and printing flyers and getting my little street team together and flyering town again. And honestly, I didn't flyer town for many years because I didn't have to. The Facebook and Instagram events were working. The discovery page was working in my favor. And yeah, as soon as they kind of put a price tag on that, I didn't buy into that. I took my money elsewhere and just found other tactics. So I really do like what you said about also getting who you can on those platforms and moving them off of social media to your other means of things. I know Discord is really big now too, but yeah, you can still, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, you can, don't click their ads because their ads are still gonna show up on your screen as you're scrolling, but the click-through rates are the things that are keeping those companies continuing to buy ads on those platforms. So as tempting as it can be, if you see something you like, open up Google and go Google it. Do not click those ads. So I think there's ways to still kind of take away money or not spend your money on those platforms if you're still on them and feel like you need to be on them. I think we're about out of time, but does anyone else have anything in regards to that or any pressing questions? Yes, Andrew?
I just want to know, I know this is going to be different for everybody, but where's the line between real life and social, you know? Because like for me, nobody's seen any pictures of my wife or my child on social media. It's because I have a page for like my journalism and stuff related to my beat. And then I got like a filmmaking thing that I do just as a, you know, as art. But as far as like Andrew, you're only gonna know me so well if you see that. So I wanted to know, like, how do y'all decide like where to draw that line, you know, that personal line?
I know for me personally, it's like, you know, whatever I post, you know, I'm intentional with whatever it is that I post. Like if I'm on my personal page, if it's stuff that I have going on, if it's like an event or if it's shouting out like a close friend or something like that, you know, intentional, you know, that kind of thing is totally fine because it's still me. I think that's the most important thing is like for you, you say you got all these three different, I guess, personas, so to speak, you know, and I think you have complete autonomy as to what you want to share because once you put it up on the internet, it's going to be there forever. So there are people who will, you know, post about their family. Like that's part of their shtick. That is part of their, you know, their whole brand, so to speak. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, there was a law that was being passed or on the verge of being passed in California about, you know, having your children, you know, vlogging and whatnot. So that's, you know, that's the whole thing. But for me personally, is I feel like, especially in the entertainment industry, people are gonna want to know, like, you know, your personal like life, basically. But you have the right to, you know, not showcase that kind of thing, you know, and it's totally fine because your personal life should be personal. You know, whatever it is that you stand for, whatever it is that who you're with, that you have every right to just keep that personal. Because again, it's about the person versus the persona, right? So the persona is, and for me, it's like, whenever I sign my name, it's like Akeeme DJ Black Starr, it's like, it's still me. Like, me being a DJ, being a curator, but it's still me. However, I'm not gonna post, you know, things that I feel that needs to be private. You know, if it's something like shouting out my mom or shouting out my dad or anything like that, of course, that's personal to me. But as far as like my relationships or anything like that, you want to keep that kind of thing like private because, you know, we do live in an era of where people will have somebody's gonna have something to say regardless. You know, if I go post about my, you know, newborn child, and there'd be somebody who literally like, "Ugh, your child is like, look at their eyes, like, you know, are you sure that is your child? Like, they don't look nothing like you," that kind of thing. So, you know, it's about being, and again, it's about being intentional and being authentic, but also know that, again, it's a snapshot. And you don't you really do not have to post everything on social media. You do not have to. People feel like they have to, or there's a need for it to say, well, if I post everything, everything that's gonna, showcase how real I am. It's like, no, it's not. You literally just put everything out on social media and it's gonna be on the internet forever. So again, like just to say it in general, it's like, dude, you have every right to keep your personal life private. You can give snapshots of what's going on, but you do not have to put everything on social media. You can have post up what's passionate to you, and that's it. And like you were saying earlier, you're just gonna slide in, you're just gonna slide out and go about your business.
Down the line.
Oh, okay. I love that question so much because it goes back down to my favorite thing, self. What feels good to you? Some people on Instagram, you know their whole life, but that's what they're about. They want their people, their friends, their followers to know their whole life. Then you have some people where it's strictly business. You don't even know if they're married. You don't even know that they have kids. So I think it just goes back down to self. What's your boundary? What's your comfortability level? What do you want to share? And no, also, like Akeeme said, whatever you do share, just be mindful. You're dealing with humans. Remember, we were all born naked. We're flawed. It's like they're gonna, basically, if I post this cup, I have to be okay with saying whatever anybody has to say, it's okay. I'm okay with what anybody has to say about this cup. But if I'm a little late on rent, okay, I don't want people to know that. So I'm not gonna go on my live and say, oh girls, I'm having a rough day because I'm late on rent, and they don't need to know that. But if I'm having a rough day with my self-esteem and I feel like I'm ugly because I'm having a bad hair day, that's totally on brand. I'm gonna totally tell these girls, oh my God, I feel like I'm the ugliest person, whatever that looks like. So I think it just goes back down to self. What's your comfortability level? What is it that you wanna share? And do it because it makes you feel good, because the people that are talking shit
ain't doing shit.
There we go.
Yeah, I think it is about just, what everybody's saying, and there is a thin line between everything. And because like I said, with my journey, because I was just on socially first. I wasn't having a brand that I needed to promote. So now I'm getting into it, and then I'm having to now backtrack and say, okay, the thin lines between things. Because what happened to me with my Facebook, for instance, I had the Facebook and I have an Instagram rolling. And my Facebook, and then as I did start rolling some things out on my Instagram for some of the things that I've then, like I said, mentioned, and I brought all the way into TikTok, I had got hacked. And that was a real intrusive experience, having someone get into my account, and it's like, why? If you're gonna post this stuff up, put this stuff out here. People who know me know that I would not ask that. Mm-hmm. People who know me, so everyone was quickly able to shut them down. Like, we know this isn't real, but then they started putting pictures and things on there that were very inappropriate, that people just know, like, you cannot put this stuff on my page. And it's just like, God dog it. So it really, and I never did reopen that page up, just kind of watching it from the sidelines, but it made me reevaluate, certain things, and, just the feeling that they have the access into all my, certain information. And now that I am building my brand, what I'm looking to do, like, Alissa was saying, that constant rebranding, I think nothing necessarily has to stay the same, and spirit sort of speaks, because before I got hacked, the spirit was telling me, close that Facebook down, because I'm also in the middle of some other stuff, some litigation stuff like that, and I don't know, the spirit was telling me, close that Facebook down. And I didn't close it down yet. And about a month or two later, then I got hacked. And I said, oh, okay, so the universe said, we're gonna close it down for you. I think, because they didn't want me to have all that exposure because I was in some other stuff. Because everyone's gonna look you up and Google you, be all in your business, knowing your kids' movement, everything else. And sometimes it's not safe to have all that information out, right? So you have to kind of use your own instinct, about how you're navigating. And I knew when that came to me, like, okay, so I laid back off of that. And then I just moved, like I said, into the other brands, just dealing with the brand. I wasn't putting my kids on there and all this other stuff, and we're over here and we're over there. It was just all about what I was doing. And I do see a value of definitely keeping things separate, And so the main thing I do miss about things like the Facebook, because that's more of your friends, your old junior high friends, you know, and connecting with people that way. And then I think, for me personally, where I'm at now with my social media, I would like to come back on there to stay connected, because I am missing certain things, and, you know, and it's unfortunate that even your family, you know, that's the only way you see a new cousin is through social media, which is not good, but still, you know, I'm missing that connection and certain things that are happening on a personal level. But then I'm definitely going to keep my business stuff, you know, on the other platforms, but all business. I like to keep it separate, you know, and then like I said, use all of that and then pull people back off. So you know, but again, everything is different from other people, and, you know, because I'm constantly telling my kid, like, you don't have to put everything. Like my daughter, every time we go somewhere, and then if I'm with her, you know, I'm like, I don't want people to know I'm here. So if people know her, know me, you know, I'm like, I don't want them to know what we're eating for dinner. But she loves all that, and that's good for her page, but we're always laughing about it, like, oh gosh, you know, because for me personally, I like to be a little bit more low key, you know, but for her, she likes to share, you know, so we're all different in what works for us, and that keeps our thing going. But I think that it's definitely about always still listening to the voice within you to guide you along your journey in social media. When is it a time to do this? When is it a time to do that? Hey, this is working well for me now with this brand. But if the spirit told you something later and you feel guided, hey, I might need to do pivot. You know, we don't have to just do the same thing and do all the trends exactly the way everybody's doing everything. I think that's the freedom we need to keep in all of this, is that, you know, we still are humans, you know, and we still have to follow our own navigation.
So we have the mother and now the daughter perspective.
Yeah.
So you can tell us the flip side.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think everybody shared really great things, and I mean, I think piggyback, you know, everybody has great points. It's true for whoever you are, but even what Alissa was saying, it's yourself. It's like, what do you feel that you're trying to share? I know people, like one of my closest friends, she evolved. Like, you have different phases. So we met in college. She used to just do makeup. Now she has kids. So she, like, part of it is her being a mom and cooking for her kids and doing this for her kids. And like, some people, like, I'm so uncomfortable with that, right? I don't want my kids on there. So it's just like, even what my mom was saying, it's like, what feels right for you, you know? And she's able to maybe help other moms and stuff like that, because that's her brand, you know? So you just have to see, like, what's working for you. And honestly, like, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. So, for instance, your perspective is like, you're doing that, like, you're all in your head about it. But, like, I'm barely doing anything. Like, that's, like, the bare minimum of what I'm doing. I need to show more of, like, what I'm doing in certain perspectives. And I have my own mental conflict of that. Like, I do want to be more expressive of, like, I show a lot that, like, I'm going here, but I don't show really a lot of my life. And it might be because of that, some of that mindset of, like, be careful and stuff, that I just don't do it. Like, I'll do it on my phone and don't even post it, but I'm trying to calm that noise down, because that's not even my noise, like, it's other people's noise. So you just have to, like, move at your own drum and connect with the people you want to connect with, but also to bring this time where, you know, you can have a different type of social media page. There's people who just have social media page of landscapes, and they're popping, you know, they're maybe getting flown out to, you know, show this landscape, and they're popping, right, and not even showing their face, right? And there's other people, like, there's this one girl I just started following. She came to one of my events. She shows her whole life. I get up at 8 a.m. I eat this food. This is the protein I do. You know, and she has so much engagement, and the people are in it. Yes, and I posted on YouTube too. Like, these people are like, they want, and then she's doing it on the real. They're like, and I want you to do it here too. And she's doing it. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of work. But she has great audience, you know, and I'm inspired by that, because I'm like, but she's getting all these deals and stuff like that, and some people are so scared they're not. But you don't have to show your face necessarily. You can show the product, what you're doing, reviewing things. So, like, if you don't even want to create your own original content, there's people who's reviewing content. Like, hey, I'm listening to this music. There's this one person who just, like, reviews content, and he's like a big person because he reviews content. Have you guys heard of these live streamers? Have you guys ever heard of that? Like, live streamers? They're, like, big because all they do is, like, did you hear about this? And this is what I think about this. Just sharing their opinion. Not even crazy stuff, just sharing their opinion. So you can't say this person's too much and this person's, less speaking, keeping it private. Good for you and good for you. Everybody has different avenues, and I do feel that it's like you have to navigate what's right for you. And what's really interesting being a human being? You can be part of a family like you can see right now that have totally different views on something, right? But even when you're thinking about partnerships and stuff, like I realize I like to share, I like to be positive, but for instance, like maybe somebody I'm talking to, they're more private, right? And then you start taking on their tendencies of like, well, they're private, so let me be private, but then I'm not feeling good because I don't think that's my job. Like, I'm here to do something different. So I'm like, I have to respect you and where you're at, but that doesn't mean I gotta be you and you don't gotta be me. So that person's not comfortable being all out here and sharing. So don't do that, but don't tell me I'm wrong for doing that and I can't tell you you're wrong for keeping things like very, very private, So I feel like we're always going through that identity, like who am I, what am I doing, what am I trying to put out? But I had a personal shift. I used to just post like, hey, I'm out here doing this, but now I post like, hey, this is what I'm doing for the community, here's where I'm at, and now I'm trying to put myself as a business. So when people see me, I'm like, hey, invite me to your thing because I want to be presented as a business. And I do want to add on like, here's a little bit about me, but I changed. Where before I was just like, hey guys, in front of my house, and that was working for me for a while. But now I'm like, hey, let's do some business, So I'm like, I got to start putting myself out there like, hey, I mean business. So yeah, it can change.
Well, that was a great question, Andrew. You had some really great questions in general. And thank you, everyone, for your time and sharing your stories. I think we're about out of time.
I'm not sure what time it is, actually.
Yeah, we're at 8:45.
Yeah.
We're a little over, so. Yeah, well, thank you guys so much and appreciate it.